$1.5 trillion. Gone. Overnight. Bitcoin pushing towards $60,000. XRP creeping toward $1 flat. Liquidations wiping out traders across the board. And if you woke up this morning and checked your portfolio, yeah, it stings. But here's what I want you to hold on to before we get into the numbers. The worst days in any cycle are almost always the days that separate the people who eventually win from the people who walk away with nothing. I'm not here to sugarcoat today. I'm not here to tell you everything is fine. What I am going to do is give you the real picture, the good, the bad, and the part almost nobody is talking about right now. If this channel is new to you, welcome to XRP Verified. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell. We do this every single day, and on days like today, it matters most. Let's get into it. So what actually happened? Markets opened to a $1.5 trillion sell-off in equities. The Dow Jones dropped hard before recovering and turning positive by later in the session, which tells you this isn't a clean directional crash. It's volatility and uncertainty driving the moves. Crypto had no such recovery. Bitcoin dropped towards $60,000. XRP approached the $1 level. Solana, Ethereum, virtually everything in the top 10 took heavy damage. Liquidations were ongoing throughout the morning. And here's the part that matters. This isn't happening in a vacuum. We have ongoing geopolitical uncertainty, Strait of Hormuz tension, a crypto market that's been grinding sideways for almost 10 months now. The macro environment is applying pressure, and retail is feeling every bit of it. But here's where I want to reframe this for you, because the news cycle isn't only pain today. And that's where it gets interesting. XRP approaching $1 is emotionally significant for a lot of holders. $1 feels like a psychological floor. It's a round number, it's been tested before, and the conversation around it always gets loud. Technically, the $1 zone has historically attracted buying interest. It's not a guarantee of anything. I want to be straight with you about that. But when you combine that level with the fundamental picture we're about to get into, it paints a very specific kind of picture for patient holders. What you don't want to do is make decisions based purely on a number that feels significant. The market doesn't care about round numbers the way our brains do. What it does respond to is liquidity, institutional positioning, and catalysts. And on all three of those fronts, there is actually news today worth your attention. Here's the quiet win that got buried under all the red. The US Senate passed a ban on CBDCs through 2030. Think about what that actually means. A central bank digital currency issued by the Federal Reserve, a government-controlled digital dollar, is off the table legislatively for the foreseeable future. Why does this matter for XRP? Because one of the long-standing arguments from XRP skeptics was that a government-backed digital dollar could make a bridging asset like XRP irrelevant for cross-border payments. That argument just got a lot weaker. The regulatory space for private sector crypto infrastructure, which includes Ripple's payment network and XRP's role within it, just got a little more room to operate. It's not a moon signal, but it is a meaningful structural development, and it happened today. On the same day, everyone is panicking about the price. Timing is funny like that. Now let's talk about the bigger picture catalyst, the Clarity Act. Industry leaders were meeting in Washington, D.C. today. The conversation around regulatory clarity for crypto, specifically around what's a security versus what's a commodity, is still very much alive. And that framework, when it passes, changes the legal landscape for XRP in a fundamental way. But here's what they're not telling you. The banks don't want this. JP Morgan, under Jamie Dimon, is reportedly among those pushing back hard on the Clarity Act. The banks spend billions on lobbyists. They have every incentive to keep crypto in legal gray zones because regulatory uncertainty is what keeps institutional money hesitant. And hesitant institutional money is money that stays in their ecosystem, not ours. Getting the Clarity Act through reportedly requires 60 Senate votes. That's a high bar. That is why this is taking so long. It's not because crypto lost. It's because the opposition is well-funded and well-organized. But here's the thing about that. When you see that level of resistance, it usually means the thing they're resisting is actually a threat. Banks don't spend billions fighting things that don't matter. Now, the honest take. Because this is XRP Verified, and verified means we don't just tell you what feels good. It has been 10 months, September through July. 10 months of grinding sideways, of watching XRP approach levels and pull back. of good news that didn't move the price the way anyone expected. That is real. That is painful. And it is okay to acknowledge that. The bear case is straightforward. Macro conditions are deteriorating, geopolitical risk is elevated, the Clarity Act could stall further, and crypto markets are showing genuine weakness across the board. Anyone holding through this needs to be doing it with eyes open, not just hope. The case for patience is equally straightforward. The regulatory wins are stacking up quietly. The institutional infrastructure around XRP is still being built, and the CBDC ban removes a competitive threat that was hanging over the space. None of that guarantees a price recovery on your timeline. This is why your why matters, not as a motivational poster, as a practical question. Why are you holding? What's your actual thesis? Because if you know the answer to that, days like today are just noise. If you don't know the answer, days like today are the ones that shake you out right at the bottom. So what does this practically mean if you're holding XRP right now? A few things. The $1 zone is a level worth watching, not as a prediction, but as a reference point for where price sits relative to historical support. The CBDC ban is an underreported win that strengthens the long-term case for Ripple's infrastructure play. And the Clarity Act timeline is long, but the direction hasn't changed. It's still moving forward, just slowly and against significant resistance. What this does not mean, this is not a signal to double down recklessly, and it is not a reason to abandon a thesis that hasn't actually been disproven. The facts on the ground today are a painful price and a set of structural positives that the market hasn't priced in yet. That combination has shown up before in this asset's history. What happened after it is part of the record. Let's bring it home. Today, markets took a $1.5 trillion hit, and crypto felt all of it. XRP is approaching the $1 zone, a level worth watching. The Senate's CBDC ban quietly removes a long-standing threat to Ripple's model. And the Clarity Act is still alive, still contested, and still the biggest regulatory domino on the board, with serious banking opposition that explains exactly why it's taking this long. 10 months is a long time to hold. Nobody is pretending otherwise, but the thesis hasn't broken. The infrastructure is still being built. The regulatory environment, slowly and messily, is moving in the right direction. If this breakdown gave you something useful today, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need honest analysis instead of hype. Subscribe if you haven't, and turn on the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's update. Until then, stay informed, stay patient, and as always, stay verified.